Good morning, I'm Natalie and today I'm going to be doing some ATCs with the Pretty Gets Gritty supplies. So I'm going to be working primarily with the drawing guides, but I'm also going to bring in a few other stamps and mediums as well. So just while I'm waiting for everybody to join in, I've cut 2 ATC cards out of watercolour or mixed media paper and one from craft. And I have the offcut sitting to one side so that we can actually swap between the two to actually build up the layers of our ATC. And good morning Tracy, good morning Carol. I will try and flip between comments, so I may see some, I may miss some. I'll do my best to not miss any. So, okay. And morning Deb. Hope your rebuilding of your furniture went okay. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the Quadrangle guide. So let's take this out of the packet. Always interesting when you're wearing gloves. Okay, so I'm going to start off with just a gel pen. And let's go for... I'm going to have a wider one for filling in, which is at 1.0, and then I'm also going to pick out a finer one so that I can do some detail. Okay. Glad to hear the IKEA furniture went well. If you are on the Crafting Pretty Gets Gritty group, if you want to say hi and just let me know that comments are working, because at the moment I'm not seeing anything from there, so I just don't want to miss any comments. Okay, so I'm going to start off with my finer pen, and let's put my seat up a little. I'm going to work onto one of my offcuts to start with, so I'm going to pull out some of the craft cardstock. And in our quadrangle we have these little kite shapes, is how I refer to them. Now obviously if we want to do a Christmas tree, we only need one half of that. We need to kind of bridge the gap, so I wanted to show you a little bit how we can do that today. So you have these two smaller kite shapes, and that's what we're going to be working with. So I'm going to start off by creating one that we can kind of cut out. So let's go down to our bottom corner, and I'm going to trace around both the solid section like so, and around the dashed lines around the outside. So we only want to do the top two sides. And I'm not going to do the dotted line for this one. Okay, so if I take that off there, you can see that you've got the start of your tree. So what we're going to do is we're going to swap to our broader gel pen, and we're going to fill in our dashes first of all. Like so. So now I'm going to tidy up that bottom section. So you have a couple of ways that you can do that. You could use the same straight again, but this time you're going to join the dots. Or if you want to do it freehand, if you're feeling particularly brave, you can do that too. So I'm going to take that same tree so that we know the dash is the same width. I'm going to join up those 2 points. And I'm going to move my template so that my dashes sit in the middle. So draw along that line so that we join those 2 points. Then with those points out here, we can go along there. Okay, so that gets us up to that point. And let's fill in again. So for the next bit, I'm going to do a little bit of shading. So you're going to need white pencil. So any white colour pencil will do. Some will be more vivid on your craft cards than others, so do test. And I'm going to start by just shading down the top two lines. So using kind of medium pressure, you don't want to be too heavy at this point. And then we're going to slowly work inward with a nice light stroke, so it's just going to catch the top of our paper. And we're going to do the same on the other side. So nice and lightly, so it just catches. If there's any bits you miss, go back over. And when you're happy with that blend, you can go back and strengthen that outside line. So hopefully you can see when I'm doing this why I use that finer gel pen, just to get that initial outline. And then we're going to go back to that outline. We can be a bit heavier handed now, and we're just going to trace down that line and blend that back out. So we have something that looks a little bit like that. And morning Mum, morning Joyce, morning Linda. And let's trim out our tree. So the way I would do this is I'm going to just take my drawing guide, I'm going to flip it round the other way, so I'm going to use my dashes to line up, and then you can use either your white pencil or your gel pen to just give you a reference line for your cutting, and that should give you a nice border around. So we're going to do the same up these sides so that we line up the dashes. And it's not going to get you from corner to corner, but it's going to get you near enough that you have a nice regular border around the outside. You can move it along a little bit if you want to get a bit more of an area. Now, when you get to your corners, what I would do is, if you then take your centre section, you can line that back up with those lines that we just drawn here and here, and then you can actually draw that top section. That's going to get that angle in there. It's a bit more tricky when we come down here, because obviously that angle doesn't actually exist on your template, so we will just have to do that by eye. Okay, so we can just cut that out with a pair of scissors. Tree. Now I'm going to move to one of my little watercolour cards here. And the reason I've chosen watercolour is so that if I want to get into doing a bit of painting, a bit of stamp blending, then I can do that without having to worry that my card is going to cockle. So if we think about where we want to put our tree, we might want to highlight a circle around that. So let's grab one of the circle templates. So I'm going to use one of my big sheet ones here. So you'll have these on the original set of drawing templates, just because I just want a circle that I can kind of pop behind. So it's not about surrounding that entire tree, I just want to kind of pull out an area. I'm going to let it go off the edge, and then you need to decide what colour you're going to go for. So, let's pull that out. Some more gel pens. I'm going to have a gel pen day today. Do you ever have days like that, or you just go in spells? So, let's pull out this one. So it's brown with a bit of glitter, so we'll have a bit of sparkle. I'm still missing replies when people are replying to conversations, so I get like half the conversation. Very weird. Okay, so let's go about there, and I'm going to trace this round like so, and like so. And you can do some of the dots, but you don't have to do all of them. So I'm just going to pick an odd few. So either 3s or 5s work well. Just to add a bit of texture like so. Then let's go for one that's got a dash. And I'm going to drop this down here. And this time I'm going to fill in with my template in place. Just go careful when you get up to your drawn edge if your template happens to go that far, just so that you don't accidentally go too far. Okay. So if there's any bits that you missed, just carefully go over the top. And you want to make sure that your gel pen is dry before you try and do any more stenciling. So I'm just going to wait for a moment on that one, and let's carry on with our other background. So I'm going to set those two up together so I don't start mixing things too much. And this time let's go for our same drawing template, so our quadrangle, and I'm going to go for the little quadrangle this time, so our little kite. Now, as I'm going to be working straight onto my watercolour, I'm just going to use my coloured pen rather than the white. And let's say you want to miss this dash line, but you don't want that outer circle line to have such a distance. You can actually shift it down, but because our gel pen is wet, make sure that you're very careful when you do this, and try not to wear gloves. We're going to line it up so that drawn line that we've just done, it's going to be at the top of our dashes. Okay, then we can come in with our pen and we can do all our little dots. I'm just going to miss out the top one. Okay. Very carefully. I'm going to move it off. So now you should have something that looks like this. To that very top, I'm going to go from the smallest star. And let's pop that just there. Like so. glad to hear you're healing okay, Tracy, and may it continue to get better each day. So with these little dots that we've done, I'm going to just do little curls. We can attach those back to our tree, like so, little walls. So you have something that looks like that. And just going to use the edge of my template as a ruler just to finish off that triangle, like so. Now at this point you may decide that you want to colour all this in, which, you know, perfectly fine, but I think for what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave that plain for now. So also on your templates you have some borders, and they can be really fun to play with. So I'm going to start off by going down the edge of my ATC. I'm going to line up so that my dots are in the middle as much as possible. Now this is always going to be a little bit tricky because you've got quite a bit to hold on to, and not very much template. So here we go. I'm going to fill in again when it's on the actual stencil. Just makes it easier to stay colouring in the lines. Really do see these as drawing aids. Don't be afraid to experiment with them. And let's go for, we've got this kind of wiggly little line here, and I think that would be quite fun to almost do like a snowdrift. So I'm just going to twist it to the point where I'm happy with the flow of it, and then let's position that around our tree, and let's go for there. So I'm not going to use all of it, I'm just going to literally use that bottom section of the line. So don't bother with the loop, skip that. And down here. Like so. So you have something that looks like that. Now what you can do is actually flip your template over so that we start to come back in the other direction. So again, I'm going to move things around to see where I want to go. I'm going to use this bit here. So again, along that curve, miss out the loop and carry on along that bottom line. Like so. And again, you're going to want to let that dry before we do too much more with it. So moving to this one, I'm thinking I want to use some of the offcuts for our watercolour. Let's go back into here. Let's see what we've got. So we've got a nice white strip. So I could use that to actually create some of my texture onto before adding it on. So let's do that next. So again, I'm going to line that up to the centre. This time I'm going to try and draw my circles a little bit more carefully so I don't have to fill them. Keep them hollow for a change. add some stars, so I'm going to carefully place my points so they go between the circles. And fill that in. Okay, and let that dry for a moment while I get out the other stencil. So this next stencil I'm using is the Geoheart drawing guide. And this has a much finer dot to it, but it's useful for extending stars and things like that, but we want to have like the effect of it kind of fading out, so I'm going to go bigger and fade it out. So big dot, not a big dot, and just literally a dot through the stencil. So you have something like that. So far so good. So on to the texture. I'm going to start off with my little ATC first. And I'm using Puddle Up, which is like a speckle stamp. Grab my stamp platform. As it's only a tiddler, I can use my little stamp platform. And let's go this way. It's a little bit easier to get everything in. So I'm not going to be using the whole stamp. I just want to use the dots. So there's actually quite a solid bit of the stamp just here. So I'm missing that. So I just literally get that texture on there. So let's pop a magnet on that bit, and another one just there. Line that up, lift up the stamp, and then we can use a white ink pad. So let's go for some picket fence. I'll just quickly check comments. Hi Noreen! Oh, sorry that you didn't get a notice this morning. At one point I didn't know if I was going to be going live because we were having a bit of drilling going on. I'm going to do a couple of impressions now. Because these are dots, it's reasonably easy to get these in the right place, but you don't tend to get a really obvious double impression. Just want to, there you go, perfect. So let's move that out of the way. And I am also going to do a little bit of doodling with our gel pen too, but before I do that, let's just clean off the stamp. So what we need, a little bit of water and a cloth. So I just use a bamboo cloth. And let's pop that there, because no doubt we'll come back to that in a minute. And let's get my fine gel pen. And we're going to go along this edge. So you don't have to do this perfectly straight. And I always go backwards and forwards so that you get like a double line in places. Okay, so now I'm going to do just a few little zigzags. Not all over. Some you can do just some straight lines. Let's go do a zigzag here and a few diagonal lines there. So something like that. Now let me hold that a little closer just so that you can see it a bit better. So we've got our border and I'll puddle up to the top. And before I go too far, I've also pulled out Unity of Flight, which has this lovely pair of wings that we can use, and I'm just going to kind of give a hint of these. So I'm just going to use a stamp block because I don't want necessarily the whole image. And let's pull out a brush corduroy. So this is going to be tone on tone stamping. So it's going to be really subtle. And I'm going to go for this right hand wing as I look at it and it's down on the desk. Now, being distressing rather than oxide, you're going to get a bit of a more distressed image. Okay, so I'm going to literally pop that over the top of my card. So. Okay, let's grab my water and a little paintbrush. Just going to dampen that down a little bit. I'm going to use what's left on my stamp to actually pick up and do a little bit shading. So bear in mind when you're doing this, because you're working on craft card, when your brush is wet, it's automatically going to make your card look darker, even if there's no actual colour there. So you want to try and make sure that you are getting enough ink to actually leave that darkness there when it all dries out. And of course your colour will dry paler. Okay. If you need a bit more ink, you can take the stamp off the block and let's flip it over, and I can actually use it as a palette then. Your lovely white gloves are not going to stay lovely and white today. Again, just going around this next tier of feathers, just to highlight that kind of texture of all these different layers of feathers going on. So you should now have something that looks a little like this. Give your brush a good clean. Oh, let me just see what size nibs are you using. So the brush I'm using is size 4, so really fine compared to the ones I was using yesterday. Make sure that's nice and clean. And then the gel pens, that's a 05 Jelly Roll, which is like fine. then a 1.0 in the Arteza, which is already bold. So the closest one to it is probably the Uniball Signo Broad if you're looking at that range. It's definitely bolder than something like a normal Jelly Roll pen. The Doodles Glitter doesn't have a nib size, but I believe it is 0.7 off the top of my head, because I know it has a wider nib to let the glitter through. Okay, so I'm going to set that to one side in case I decide to do any more shading with that. And we might actually, yeah, let's go for it. So I'm going to pull, let's decide which tree. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, I'm going to go for a couple. So let's put my bigger tree here. And this is where you're going to need a little bit of patience and a brush that isn't too wet, because obviously the last thing you want is your ink to go under your stencil at this point. And I'm going to just use that template guide to go around my feather. So where it needs to be darker, go darker. Okay. I'm going to go out this way and blend that in. So if you need to put a little bit more ink on your brush, take it up to this edge. Okay, there's one tree, and I'm just going to tidy that up. So for this one, it's probably easier to do that freehand. And I'm going to go back to our other little tree, and I'm going to put that up and to the left, and try and be a little bit paler with this one. It's not always the easiest to control, but it will push it back just a little bit. Like so, and let's tidy that up. There we go. So we have 2 Christmas trees. And onto the top. It's a little trickier to align, but try and get it so that you can see the tip of the tree through. So I'm going to give that little wiggle with the brush, and then hopefully we can just make that a little bit stronger, so it looks like there's something on top of the tree, but it's that much in the distance that you don't want it to be too obvious. And same here, but with this one I want to make it just a little bit bigger. So again, a little bit more ink. Let's just take that down just a little bit. Okay. Just do a little bit of detail. Then underneath here we can put a little trunk, like so, and that'll do. And yay, we're going to have some hammering now. It's just going to be one of those days. Do you have days like that? Where no matter how you try and plan things, that's having such a good day as well to start with. was well ahead of my work. Okay, so I'm just going to do some little lines here. Like so. Then we have our little border that I think I'm going to possibly... See, I don't want to cover up too much of that detail, but I'm thinking it would be quite nice to have that 3D'd up a little bit. So, yeah, it's just one of those. It's like, seriously, got a weekend. Well, that probably means actually we're in for a weekend of it, but yeah. Yay! But I've got to do at least a little bit of tidying this weekend. So. Poor studio is looking a little worse for wear. One more for look. Okay. Because then we have to get all the backings off, and that's the fun bit. That'll do for that one. Now this one's dry, I'm going to come back in with my gel pen, and this time I'm going to use the straight lines from our square, and we're going to do a string, and then another one that's going to go, let's go and do some dashes, so back there for that one, and there we go. So, and if you want to put like a little bow or something, you can do so. I'm actually going to do this just here. So do a 8 on the side, and a little upturn V for a bow. And let's pop up my tree. And I do apologise for the racket. I'm going to pop that one. Just, let's put it, yeah, let's go this way. I was going to offset it that way and trim it, but I think I'm going to pop it right in the middle there. There we go. We can do the same technique. I'm just going to miss out this circle section and actually take that all the way down to the bottom, back up, all the way along the bottom. This way. Let's do a couple of little stitch bits there and down to the bottom. Yep, and I think I'm happy with that. So this one needs a little extra something. So let's get my offcut again, because I think it needs either a border or it needs a circle with some little bit of embellishment on. So let's go for this one. A few different size circles we can go for. Don't want to go too big, so I think that one just there will work nicely. I'm going to go around there. And let's go for another small one. Okay. So again, going to go around with the white pencil. Around this side. Now this side I'm going to get a bit of a stronger arch highlight right there. So that we've got the shape of a bauble. And then to our other little bauble, let's put, rather than going that one, let's go white. And we've got this little diamond just here, and I'm thinking that would make another perfect little tree. That it's a bit wider, but that makes a nice change. So that's there. Turn it round. And that. So I'm going to line up these outside dots on that triangle that I just traced and go down this inside triangle again. Then I'm going to try and go halfway between the two. So because there's always a slight gap between where you're drawing by the stencil edges, you want to move that stencil edge just inside that outside line. Like so. And let's fill that in with white pen. Like so. And maybe just a little trunk. And we'll cut those out. Okay, so there's one. And two. Let's bring this back in. So I definitely want this one 3D'd up, so let's grab a 3D dot. That can go in the middle. And I'm going to pop that down to this bottom corner. Another little dot, and let's get the highlight round the right way. So we can just slide that underneath, like so. Then you can either use your templates to do another line, or I'm just going to go like so, like so. Back down that way. I'm just going to angle my nib so it goes underneath there. Let's do a few little bows, and those are done. So there's some little ATC ideas that we can do nice and quickly, and you can even turn those into tags if you want to, or into toppers for cards. But I'm just going to leave those as is. So I hope you've enjoyed that little different look at using your drawing templates and how we can use them. And I will quickly check on comments to make sure I haven't lost anything. Thank you, Thea. Oh dear, Facebook is having issues. Okay. Hi Sharon. I've had a bit of a reaction to vinyl gloves, believe it or not. So I'm having to, yeah, try and look after them a bit. They're a bit sore. So, as there don't seem to be any questions about what I've done today, I hope you've enjoyed yourself and also that you are slowly getting ready for Christmas. Take care, and I will probably see you, if not later this month, it will be in the new year.